Hi everyone, this is Dhruv Bhatli. I'm the co-founder and head of research at UBI Index. I'm really glad to be here, and thanks to all of you for tuning in. The topic today is very interesting. It has to do with best practices at top university business incubators. Before we get into the topic, I just wanted to outline that incubators today hold a very special place in the innovation ecosystems around the world. If you look at companies like Auditude, incubated at Rice Alliance, which was acquired by Adobe for 120 million US dollars, or another company called Pasuteria Bioscience, incubated at Sid Martin Biotechnology Incubator, which was acquired by Syngenta for 113 million US dollars, you know that incubation, if done right, can produce great success stories. So I want to underline here the word right, because having an incubator in itself is not enough. It's important to have an incubator which will produce success stories, which will produce champions. How is it that some incubators with similar resources are able to produce champions and more successful companies than others? So with that crucial question on the back of our minds, I'm going to delve into the topic by answering 4 questions which most of the incubator managers that I meet are asking. So most of the incubator managers, what they want to know is that if we are to run and manage a successful business incubation program, then please tell us, how can we have a sustainable business model? They want to know, how should we utilize our operational budgets? They want to know, what are the best practices when it comes to incubator management? And they want to know how to attract quality deal flow and talent. These are essential questions that all incubators have. And interestingly, we are in a fortunate position that we get to speak to incubator managers around the world. Last year, we were speaking to incubator managers in 22 countries. And this year, we're going to be speaking to incubator managers in over 40 countries around the world. And from that privileged standpoint, I would like to share the insights from my discussions with the incubator managers of top performing incubators in the world. So let's take the questions one by one. First, when it comes to the business model of an incubator, or if I can put the question as how to have a successful business model, we notice that there are 3 components to it. First has to do with the mandate and the objectives of the incubator. Second has to do with the revenue model of the incubator. And third has to do with the context of the incubator, of the ecosystem in which the incubator is. If I were to place them in the order of importance, I would probably say that understand the context of your ecosystem, of where your incubator is. Second, have your mandate, your objectives in line with that context. And third, find a business model which is in line with that context and the mandate and objectives of the incubator. Now, once you have decided what kind of business model you're going to be working with, the key component there, like I said before, has to do with generating revenue. So how will you make sure that you have funds to operate, to have a business model that is sustainable. So here we find that top incubators around the world, they believe in generating their own commercial revenue. Again, this would vary from case to case. So if you have identified that in your context it's very difficult to generate commercial revenue, and that you have put your mandate and objectives as ones which don't support commercial revenue, then it's important to follow your mandate. But when it comes to top incubators, we notice that they think, when it comes to their revenue model, it's important to generate commercial revenue. And they generate the commercial revenue in many different ways. The prevailing models in this regard are to do with renting out space, charging clients for a service, so a service fee model, trying to get corporate sponsorship, or taking an equity position in your client startups. So again, all these models, when it comes to revenue generation, could work for your incubator if that is what the mandate and the objective of your incubator is. So know the mandate first, and then decide which of these models would work for you, and then align your operations to your mandate and to your objectives. The other thing we notice at top incubators has to do with putting your business model around the functional strengths of the incubator. So you need to build your business model around the things which you're good at. So you must identify what are your functional strengths, and then build your business model around it. So knowing the context, knowing your mandate, choosing the right revenue model, and building the business model around your functional strengths would be the key components of a sustainable business model. When it comes to best practices, although I touched upon it before, we notice few things. First, top incubators, they're running their program with a startup mindset. As one incubator manager told me, when you have, you must think that you don't have. So they are running lean operations, and they are thinking like a startup, and this affects when it comes to their revenue generation, and this helps them have a viable business model. So first best practice would be to have that startup mindset, even if you're running a multi-million-dollar incubation program. Think like a startup, think you're running a business, and operate with that frame of mind. Second, you must be aware of who your stakeholders are. So once you have your mandates, you have your local realities, you understand who your stakeholders are in your local realities. And so you must manage the expectation of your stakeholders. Third would be to emphasize on being relevant in your ecosystem, that you must be fresh and contemporary. You must be seen as a leader in your ecosystem, because being seen as a leader would help you get support from the ecosystem, and that in turn helps having a sustainable business model. And another practical best practice that was given to me by an incubator manager has to do with setting both short-term and long-term objectives. So you need to identify what are your short-term needs, what are going to be your long-term challenges, and then you have to build a strategy around both short-term goals and long-term objectives. If you know that cash flow is one of your main concerns, then in short term you must address that concern. The second question has to do with the operational budget. And we hear all the time Dhruv, please tell us how to get maximum value from our operational budget. So before I get into the best practices, let me just outline how the budgets at incubators are generally organized. So we notice at incubators, the budgets are broadly broken down into three separate parts. One has to do with the salaries and HR related costs. Second has to do with the infrastructure, the space, the equipment related costs. And third has to do with the marketing, the event related costs. Now it varies case by case, and majority of the operational budgets we notice at incubators is being spent on HR and salaries, personnel related costs. And the reason for this, and we asked this to the managers at top incubators, is that they consider that quality human resources is a differentiating factor between success and failure of the incubator, and which also affects deeply the success and failure of the client startup. So getting quality human resources, great coaches, mentors, core team is very, very essential. When it comes to best practices to get maximum value from your operational budgets, there are a number of things that top incubators do. First, they are very frugal in the way that they spend their money. They are very conscious when they spend their money, and they're very choosy when they are spending their money. And an added part to this, to being frugal, is to find alternative resources or free resources, as one incubator manager called it. Could be in form of volunteers, could be in form of resources from the university. And I think it's very important to get those free resources and to be frugal to offset the excess stress on their budgets. Most incubators don't have, they never have enough budgets. That's what we hear all the time. So not to put stress on your budgets, you must leverage alternative resources and free resources. And an incubator manager once told me that you can find free resources no matter where you are in the world. In the most advanced ecosystems, in the developing ecosystems, it doesn't matter where your incubator is. You can always find free resources. There are always players, there are always actors in your ecosystem who want to come and join you and work for you. And it's not always for monetary concerns. Second has to do with linking the operational budget to the success matrix and the objectives of the incubator. So this is a great practice at top incubators, which is that they link their budgets to the success matrix of their incubator, to their mission, to their objectives. So they are very conscious that every amount of money that they are spending is being spent in line with what their objectives are, is being spent to what their success matrix are. And again, this joins what I said before in the business model. It also helps them satisfy their stakeholders, or at least meet the expectations that their stakeholders have. So it's very, very important. The third is that top incubators, when it comes to operational budgets, they're very frugal in spending money, but they're not at all frugal when it comes to spending money to engage the community. So they spend money to engage the community. They spend money to create a great environment inside the incubator. And they think that this directly contributes to the success of the incubator. So they think that it's money well spent when you engage the community, when you're building a great environment inside the incubator. And the fourth is that top incubators, when it comes to their budget, which are driven by their revenue, they do not rely on one single revenue stream. They diversify their revenue streams. In that way, they're able to manage the performance of the incubator budgets over a period of time. And One suggestion that I heard from an incubator manager has to do with having at least 30 to 40% of your operational budget as variable costs. So try not to have more than 60 or 70% of your costs as fixed costs. Try to have a leverage of 30 to 40% of variable costs there. So with this said, the third question has to do with effective incubator management. And here we get the question all the time, how to successfully run and manage an incubator. So incubator managers at top incubators think that there are a number of things that contribute to having a successful incubation program. Now, the first one has to do with a stable and viable business model. They think that having a stable business model, one that will live over a period of time, really helps them plan things. So having a viable and stable business model is very, very important. The second has to do with managing the deal flow and the pipeline of the client companies that are coming in. So effective incubator management must consider the management of pipeline as one of the essential things. Third has to do with the clear positioning of the incubator in the ecosystem. The incubator must be seen as a clear brand and must occupy a clear position in the ecosystem. The next has to do with the entrepreneur-centric attitude. So the incubator managers at top incubators, they have this entrepreneur-centric viewpoint where they think, like we say, that all roads lead to Rome. They think that all roads lead to the entrepreneur. And so with that entrepreneur-centric attitude, all the activities that they do are focused on the entrepreneur. So if they are bringing in a business development team, it's focused on the entrepreneur. If they are introducing a new service, it's focused on the entrepreneur. Entrepreneur in the end is the greatest asset they think they have, and they want to nurture it to the maximum. So effective incubator management has to do with being entrepreneur-centric. So in line with what I just outlined in terms of effective incubator management, some of the best practices at top incubators are, one, like I said before, they're entrepreneur-centric, so they constantly revive their offer to fit the needs of their client startups. So if they have an entrepreneurship education program, they always go back to the entrepreneur and ask, how was it? Do you need any changes? Did it satisfy and fulfill the needs that you have? So everything that is being done at the incubator in their offer is focused on the client startup. Second, the incubators are trying to be, or they at least aim to be relevant in their ecosystem. And when I say ecosystem, there are two ecosystems. One has to do with the large ecosystem outside the incubator, of which the incubator is a part. And the second has to do with the ecosystem or a micro ecosystem inside the incubator. And they want to be relevant for both. They want to be relevant for the ecosystem at large, but also for everybody else who is inside the incubator. And then another best practice that they have is that they focus on being financially viable. They want to have a stable revenue model, and I think we already touched upon it when we spoke of business model and operational budget, but effective incubator management has also to do with being financially viable. And so that's another thing that they work on. So the fourth question that we hear all the time has to do with deal flow. So how do we attract deal flow? How do we get great quality of clients? Now, when it comes to the deal flow, we notice that there are two direct methods that incubators today are applying to get deal flow. First has to do with being active in the community. And when I say being active, I mean that they are organizing events, they are doing a lot of field work, just like Steve Blank says, get out of the building. They are making sure that they get out of the building and find those entrepreneurs. And the second direct way is through establishing relationship with the sources of entrepreneurs. And there are a number of sources where you can find entrepreneurs. Could be the research labs at universities, could be the academia, could be the agencies that help entrepreneurs, that give some sort of soft loans to the entrepreneurs. So the other direct way is to establishing a relationship with the sources of entrepreneurs. Then apart from these two direct methods that incubators apply, there are a few other things that affect the deal flow and talent. First has to do with the referrals from the alumni. So if the alumni is happy, are they referring it to the ecosystem at large? Are they going out and saying, I'm an alumni of this incubator and it was a great incubation program, you must do it, right? So the referrals is another component that plays a role. But if you're doing right, what we talked of before, that if you are entrepreneur-centric, then it's normal that you get positive alumni referrals, right? So all of these are interrelated, but satisfying the entrepreneur, it boils down to pretty much that one phrase, that you must be entrepreneur-centric. So alumni referrals is another component when it comes to attracting deal flow. Now, nothing better for an incubator than to have success stories. So the other component has to do with success stories here. Attracting deal flow has to do with what kind of success stories have you produced. If you have produced great success stories, rest assured you're going to get a lot of deal flow. So success stories, another factor that plays into getting deal flow. Then having a clear positioning in the ecosystem, like I said before, another key component. So if you are a high-tech incubator, important that you must be seen as a high-tech incubator. Have a clear positioning in the market. One incubator manager told me that when an incubator does everything, it does nothing. And that's precisely true. So clear positioning in the market is very, very important. And another component has to do with being approachable. So if your incubator is seen as a place which is approachable, it has an open door policy that anybody can walk in, hang out with other entrepreneurs, then that translates to deal flow and talent at a later point of time. So you are creating that soft space and you're letting in prospective entrepreneurs, prospective clients in your space. And when they eventually think of making a company, they would think of you, right? So having an open door policy, being approachable, another component. So when it comes to best practices, we notice that top incubators have a clear position in their ecosystem. They communicate really well the value of their incubation program. And here they talk about the success stories. They talk about what their alumni has received from them. They talk about their clients. They actively involve the investment community in the incubation programs. So an incubator manager told me that involving the investment community acts as a great hook for the talent. Talent has great ideas, and they're looking for people who would invest in their ideas. They are looking for connecting with a great network. And so bringing on board investment community is a great hook to bring that talent, to bring deal flow into your incubator. Third has to do with being relevant in the ecosystem, like I said before, being really, really active. And when I say active, it also means that you need to lead the incubation discourse in the ecosystem. You must be seen as a clear leader in your ecosystem. If there is something important when it comes to entrepreneurship happening in your community, you must be seen as one contributing to it, or if not, driving it. And the last would be to establish trusted relationship with the sources of entrepreneurs. So top incubators establish great relationship with the sources of entrepreneurs. Be it research labs, be it soft loan agencies, you name it. And so they do it really, really well. So this answers the 4 questions that I wanted to cover in our topic today. But I think you'll find much more interesting information, because now with the limited time, we can only touch upon the surface. You will find much more interesting information in our report that's coming out today, which is the best practices at top University Business Incubators, where you will find 12 of the top CEOs and directors of incubators in the world talking to you, and for the first time telling you how they do it in their incubators, how they do it when it comes to managing the incubator, how they do it when it comes to their business model, how they do it when it comes to their operational budget, how do they attract deal flow and talent, how do they screen and select great companies. So I think you will find much more details, much more interesting information in that report. And like I said in the beginning, it's all about finding your mandate and defining your objectives when it comes to best practices. And since incubators are in different contexts and might have different mandates, I think you will find much more information in that report to kind of make your own recipe. And from our experience, we noticed that all incubators have potential to be top incubators. It's just a matter of finding that recipe. And I'm sure that you will find that recipe in the report that's coming out. So please go ahead and pre-book it. I really recommend it. With this said, I think we've covered the topic. I would like to thank you again for joining in. And I will pass it on to Ali, who will talk to you about a few other interesting things. Thank you very much.